let us demystify once and for all how you as a church can play nice with the algorithms of social media. Because what's true for us as churches is very, very different from influencers, solo creators, for-profit companies, and virtually every major institution. No fancy edit today. It's 9:30 a.m. I have once again dragged Alex out with me, and I am seated in front of a local Presbyterian church here to distill my years of church social media experience. Give me 10 to 15 minutes, and I'll give you 10 to 15 years of hard-earned lessons. Deal? Now, why might I be qualified to talk about this to begin with? Well, first, I'm a social media creator myself. My content on Instagram receives on average more than 1 million views every month. But more importantly, my team and I work directly, one-on-one, with 100 plus churches every single week, creating social media content for them and analyzing the data and performance. We do this over at socialsermons.com. On average, churches see a 32x jump in engagement in the first 12 months of working with us. That is a byproduct of understanding how social media algorithms work. So let's dive into this. We've got this precious little pyramid here, and you'll find a downloadable version of this graphic linked in the description, by the way. So if you struggle to read my handwriting, for which I would not blame you, you are sorted there. And like with most structures, the foundation of our pyramid is what matters most. We begin with no weeks off. This is the singular non-negotiable of social media, the publishing cadence we need to commit to, but it also represents the first key difference between us as churches and other solo creators or influencers, because our church finances are not tied to views on social. We're not participating in brand partnerships or promoting affiliate programs. So the mantra of no days off and posting as much as we possibly can doesn't really apply to us, meaning you don't need to burn yourself out with an unsustainable social calendar that you just cannot keep up with, which is great. But we do need to establish a sustainable no weeks off rhythm that we can upkeep indefinitely. Sadly, what I tend to see is churches, they might get a burst of motivation for social, post a ton, but then other commitments come up or there's some turnover, and then they don't publish for a little while. And realistically, we can't even get to the rest of what we have on this pyramid because any momentum we've built, it's always being undone with our inconsistency. I like to say it this way: the right action in the wrong amount still fails. Once we do have this no weeks off rhythm knocked down, we can continue with our next block in the pyramid, which is stop the scroll. And I think Brock Johnson says it best here in this post on Threads, which I fully endorse. The hook of your reel is 80% of its success. Not the tips, not the music, not your transitions, not the value. The first 3 seconds decide if anyone stays. That's where you should focus. Said differently, attention is the most valuable commodity your church can possess, both in person and online. On social, the mechanism for achieving that attention is the hook of your post. That's how we stop the scroll. What does this actually look like? Well, it differs based on the creative format of a post. Brock was talking specifically about Reels, and here's how I did one recently. The hook appears above me and says, "Brutally honest truth for churches." On a sermon clip, it can look like this. Confused by weird Bible passages? Try this approach. On a carousel post, it can look like this, where the hook is on the first slide, that stops the scroll, and then the substance of the post comes in the remaining slides with a call to action at the end. Knowing the importance of a hook, this demands the question: what makes a good hook? And again, this is unique for churches. The key is identifying the intersections between faith and culture. Where does the lived experience of the person that you're trying to reach cross paths with the wisdom of Scripture? The wisdom of Scripture is for all people, for all time, irrespective of faith background. And it's where faith and culture overlap that gives us the greatest potential for amplifying the message of Jesus and reaching a broad audience. This is also where all of our content ideas should be coming from. Now, what's an example of this? Well, take a look at this YouTube video that we made for a church. The original title for this message, this sermon, was Frequency, How to Hear, Part 1, which as a title is not going to be relevant to really anyone online, but the substance of the message was discernment. And so when we considered the intersection of faith and culture, the hook, how to avoid bad advice, was compelling to us. It's accessible to anyone, and then what follows is the wisdom of Scripture in the message from John 15 and Galatians 5. And by the way, all of the examples that you've seen so far come from our team working with churches one-on-one at socialsermons.com. All month long, in August, if you sign up for an annual plan, you can get 3 months free. Explore all the details at socialsermons.com. Book a call with me. As previously mentioned, the average church using Social Sermons sees engagement increase 32x in the first 12 months of working together. Happy to talk more. Now, looking at the first 3 blocks in our pyramid, we have set up a solid foundation for understanding and navigating the algorithms of social. There is one mistake that we can make at this point that many churches make that would eliminate all the good progress we've made, and that is if we neglect the no promo code. And it was in last week's video, the first in our summer whiteboard series, where we talked about the new rules for church announcements on social media. And one of those rules was to respect the no promo code. Watch that full video if you haven't already. It's linked in the description. The crux of the rule is this: no one goes on social to see ads and promos. If we publish that type of content, it will sewer our entire social page. So instead, we use sprinkle promos to get around this. And I'll leave you to explore that video if you care to learn more about sprinkle promos and how to effectively promote on social media. Moving on now, though, to the second row of the blocks in our pyramid. Now we are building on the foundation that we have set. Notice the title of this video is Social Media Algorithm Secrets for Churches. Why use the word secrets? Well, one, because this information is known by very, very few churches, but really, I used that word specifically because once you've built a foundation for navigating the algorithms of social and you've been consistent with the no weeks off approach for several months, you have earned something very special, and that is personalized insights. These are the secrets that you can only access when you publish on social consistently and see how people interact with what your church is saying. And then the formula is simple. Repeat the best, forget the rest, and continue to test. Let me show you how to do this. First, I'll go to business.facebook.com, and then in the left-hand navigation menu, click on Insights. From there, I'll click on Content, and then using the date picker, I'll filter between 90 and 180 days worth of data. If I click Filter, then Placement, I can choose between Facebook or Instagram to isolate one of the two. For example, here I'll choose Instagram, and now I can sort my content to identify the posts I've published that have performed best and worst. In terms of metrics, the ones that I'm looking at, I focused on reach, likes and reactions, and shares. I can sort to see the best performers, sort to see the worst performers, and then make notes on what common traits you can identify. These kinds of insights are invaluable because they're not generic. This isn't broad social media advice. It's personalized to your church and your audience and your world. And it actually has implications beyond just social media, because what's great about social is that feedback is unfiltered. What I mean by that is people vote with their time. So when you see outlier posts, whether for good or for bad, there's something there for you to learn about your church and your unique voice and DNA and culture and how that's overlapping with the needs of your community, which can help inform future messages and even ministries. These are also the kinds of insights that businesses will routinely pay tens of thousands of dollars for in the form of market research. We get them as a free byproduct on social simply from being consistent with our posting schedules. Let's talk about some practical examples of this. Aside from just using Meta Business Suite and sorting from best to worst, we can take this a step further and do some more thorough data analysis. To start, I'll export the last 90 days of insights from Meta Business Suite, and then I'll head over to ChatGPT and ask the following questions. Which post type had the highest engagement rate? What day of the week performs best? And what correlates most with high reach? Another question you can ask: audit my worst performing 5 posts and identify common traits. Do the same for my best performing 5 posts. And then, once you've done your data analysis with your content, your mandate is simple. Repeat the best, forget the rest, and continue to test. That's the broad mission on social. It's how you level up every 90 days, and it's how you signal to the algorithm that you understand the needs of your audience. You care about meeting those needs, and as you continue to publish content that more and more predictably performs well, those positive signals translate to more reach, and you create this positive flywheel effect over time. That's how you grow, that's how you introduce your church to new people in your community, and that's how you harness the free distribution of social platforms to fulfill the mission of your church, all while you continue to nurture the existing relationships that you already have on social with those that already follow you and are connected via your congregation. We can get even more specific and granular with this, though, and we should. So let's move up to the third row on our pyramid. We'll start here. Last year, the head of Instagram said this about post metrics: sends matter most across the board. And I think this is really important because what metric is the most visible on Instagram? Likes, of course. And because it's the most visible, it's typically recognized as the most valuable. Except it's actually not. In fact, the most important metric across the board is one you won't even see unless you tap View Insights on a post to track it down in Instagram or go inside Meta Business Suite like we just were. But if we know that sends matter most, how can we use this knowledge to better understand the algorithm and make better content to serve people better? We calculate the send percentage across all of our posts. It's a simple equation of sends or shares divided by reach. Go back to ChatGPT, I'll give it the prompt: calculate the send percentage of each post by using the formula sends divided by reach. Then rank posts from highest send percentage to lowest. From there, I'm given a new spreadsheet where I can rank posts by this metric. And now I've got two jobs. Again, first, identify patterns in my worst and best performers. Do I see any repetition amongst subject matter, post format, design specifics? I'll use that info to repeat the best, forget the rest, continue to test. I'm gonna do one more thing though. I am going to make note of my best performers, and I will literally repost those winners in the future months. That's right. And yes, this would have been the cardinal sin of social media in the previous era. But in the current era, reposting your winners is one of the best ways to keep momentum going on social, especially during busy seasons or during weeks where you don't have a ton of motivation or energy to create new content. For reference, so far this year, roughly 20% of my content on social is a repost from a winner I previously published. And in terms of gap, I tend to have at least, 6 months in between reposts, ideally for me closer to a year, but there's no hard rules on this. Let's jump to the final row on our pyramid. Just one last item to discuss as we demystify social media algorithms. Let's start here. One of the most important things to understand is that there is no single social media algorithm. Rarely are there even single algorithms on individual platforms. We'll use Instagram again as our example. They tend to be the most transparent about this. It's not speculative. This is a quote. There are a variety of algorithms, classifiers, and processes, each with its own purpose to make sure Instagram users see the content that most interests them. What this means is, there are a bunch of ranking factors, or signals as Instagram calls them, that are used to distribute posts to users. Some of the more important ones include information about the post, obviously how popular it is, how many people are engaging, but also your historic relationship with an account matters as well. Said simply, have you interacted with this creator before? Do you have a pre-existing relationship with them, either in person or online? Now here's how this translates to the content that we make and publish as churches. Familiar frameworks are preferred. Here's what I mean. Think of your social feed. Most of what you see is from accounts that you don't choose to follow. It's a new person in a new place. And in an instant, you have to make the decision if this post is worth your time or not. You want to know what's a welcome reprieve from that? A creator you recognize, using a content format you recognize. It's like the same feeling you get when you walk into a room with a bunch of people and you're looking around and then you see that person you know and you go directly to them. Why? Because they're familiar. And in a sea of unfamiliarity, that is a welcome sight. So how do we apply this to social? Well, this works when we have consistent design patterns. You'll see this with my Instagram carousels. Go to my page, scroll back for years. You'll see the same simple design over and over and over again. Why is this not boring people? Because it's a familiar design. And in this era of social, that's a good thing, not a bad thing. This works with faces as well. People see my face in a reel, they recognize me. That's a familiar framework. And for churches, this is just one of the reasons why sermon clips should continue to be a cornerstone of your social media strategy. Not only do you get the familiar faces, but you get the familiar design format because it's always on your stage, in your church sanctuary. There's a familiar face and a familiar space. And I know this can feel counterintuitive. You might think you need to come up with new designs every single time because that was the standard practice in the early to mid 2010s. But it hasn't been the case now for the past 5, 8+ years. Familiar frameworks are good. Doesn't mean that you don't continue to test, as we've already hit on, but if you're trying to do something new with every single post, not only are you working against the algorithms, you're probably also creating a lot more work for yourself needlessly. Speaking of work on your shoulders, if you want to outsource the biggest portion of your church's social media calendar and let us do the heavy lifting, head to socialsermons.com in the month of August only. You can get 3 free months on any annual plan. On average, churches that work with us, they see that 32x increase in engagement in the first 12 months. Socialsermons.com to learn more. And a reminder that I've put this pyramid into a downloadable graphic that you can access. It is linked in the description. And thanks as always for your time, attention, and trust. I'll see you in the next one.